Well, good evening to members of committee, and welcome to the June 14th meeting of the town of Petawawa. Welcome to the council committee meeting. I'll call this meeting to order and ask if any disclosure of pecuniary interest in any of the matters before this evening. Having seen none, we've got a fairly lengthy meeting this evening. A couple of presentations. The first one is our audited financial statements, and I'll ask the treasurer, Annette, to introduce our guest this evening.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So for tonight, I'd like to introduce Angela Shute from Welsh LLP Chartered Accountants, and she will be presenting our 2020 audited financial statements.
Thank you, and good evening, Angela. Welcome to this crowd. The floor is yours.
Thank you. So good evening, everyone, and I'd like to start with the letter in the agenda package. So I believe I can share my screen. Just so we're all on the same page and you know what I'm talking about. So this is just our letter stating that we did not find any significant deficiencies in the books of the town of Petawawa and the consolidated entities. So we're happy to report that to you tonight. And we're very happy and thankful for the cooperation of Dan, Annette, and their staff throughout the audit, especially this year, because we had to finish up a lot of it electronically due to the lockdown. So they were very helpful to get us the final information we needed so we could finish up on time this year. So let's look at the financial statements. So again, no significant deficiencies, so I'm able to report an unqualified opinion, meaning we feel everything presents fairly in all material respects, the position of the town that's reflected in these statements. And just a reminder that these are consolidated statements, so it's not just the town of Petawawa's financials, but it also includes the Petawawa Public Library, 30% of the Pembroke and Airport Commission, as well as 40.5% of the Ottawa Valley Waste Management Board. So just to remember that as we look at these statements. And I'd like to say, considering that the pandemic happened 2.5 months into 2020 and your budget had already been done, the town did well to stay on top of the finances and did a good job of keeping everything in line. And you'll see that as we work through them. So if we start at the consolidated statement of financial position, this is the assets and liabilities of the town and consolidated entities at December 31st. So what the town had and owed. So I'll just run through some of the larger variances, but again, stop me at any time if there's a question that you want to know going through it. So again, if we look at cash off the top, there's a $3 million increase over 2019. A lot of that has to do with surpluses in water and sewer during the year, as many projects were not able to be undertaken, again, due to COVID and the increase in prices that came back for tenders. So there's surpluses there, as well as the reserve balances increased by 1.3 million from 2019. The investments increased slightly. Those are waste recovery investments for the most part. So they put a little more money away, and your share of that was 121,000. Taxes receivable, not a big variance, and I actually want to point that out for that reason. It's only up about 40,000 this year. So considering the pandemic and how there were municipalities not charging taxes because they were worried about not collecting, they were charging them, but they weren't really worried about collecting them right away. They were deferring the payments, the receipts of them. The town has done well. It's only about $40,000 more outstanding at year end over the prior year. We look at accounts receivable, slightly down during the year. Just a drop in the HST rebates and some of the grants and building permit receivables. Inventories, we look at that line, it looks like half, but again, many of the expired goods that were held over at the rec facilities were disposed of because they weren't going to be used during the year and they couldn't be resold once the facilities opened up again. We did look down to the liabilities below what was owed by the town. The demand loan was the airport hangar, and actually that's just flipped down to long-term debt. So we'll talk about that there. Accounts payable and accrued liabilities, there's about a $300,000 increase. So the town received an additional almost $800,000 in pre-development security deposits for Portage Landing and Laurentian Valley or Laurentian Phase 2C subdivisions. But there wasn't as much owing at year end for holdbacks due to large projects undertaken during the year. Deferred revenue general has increased because there were grants received but not able to use again during the year. So the community transportation grant, some of the COVID funding and some of the OCIF funding has been deferred to use in future years because it wasn't all spent in 2020. Now the long-term debt has decreased because the Waste Recovery Center paid off 2 of their loans during the year, but the airport undertook $300,000 in debt for their hangar. The town's portion of that debt is only $89,000 at the 30%. And there's more details about repayment terms and such at note 6 if you're interested. Further down, our tangible capital assets, this $92 million number, that has increased this year thanks to 6.43 million of donated assets in infrastructure assets, so roads and water systems and sewers that the town assumed from developments throughout the year. So does anyone have any questions on this statement so far?
I can't see anyone on my screen, Angela,
Okay.
except James and Eb. So shout out if you want to ask a question because I can't see you. No questions against Annette. Angela, pardon me.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
I can't see everyone either, so it makes it a little
so
difficult.
Just shout out members of council if our committee if you want to ask a question.
Okay, statement of operations. Again, so this is what happened throughout 2020. So you think of the period. And again, I'll just highlight some of the larger variances. If you look at the provincial and other government grant transfers line, so you'll just see that it's higher than what was budgeted for, but you didn't know you were getting the COVID money at the time when you did the budget. So that's why it's higher, but yet it's significantly lower than 2019 because there were grants you didn't get, like the employment grants, because you didn't need the summer students to help run the rec facilities during the year. As well, in 2019, you got 670,000 of modernization grant money that you had used, and that wasn't no longer available in 2020. So that's why the drop from year to year. Again, we look at the development contributions and development charges. You see that large number there of 6 million. And again, that is those assets assumed by the town from the developments. So again, it was 6.43 million there. And if over the 2019 year, it was only 2.5 million that was assumed in 2019. So that's why that large number is there. Investment income, just a drop from 2019. Again, thanks to COVID, the interest rates dropped and all your money you have sitting in the bank and reserves didn't make as much during the year. If we look down at expenditures, so pretty much all have dropped if you look down the line in 2020, other than planning and development. Again, thanks to COVID, you weren't able to travel as much or take courses. Certain programs weren't able to be maintained throughout the year of 2020. So it reduced your expenditures. If we look at your transportation services line here, it's higher than budgeted, and that's typically the case we see when we come to this point because the town never budgets for amortization, so the slow write down of those capital assets. So there's almost 2 million more in amortization in that 5 million that wasn't budgeted for. As well, your winter maintenance costs were $156,000 more than expected as well. But it's also still less than your 2019 amounts, because in 2019, this is where you would have saw those spring floods of 2019, those expenses. So you still came in less, even though it was more than you had anticipated when you did the budget. Environmental services, again, about a $500,000 decrease. It was just not so many large repairs were done, again, due to the supply issues and COVID pricing. So the water and sewer system maintenance didn't all get done as expected. And also the waste recovery had less expenditures because they were no longer hauling from Algonquin Park last year. So their repairs and maintenance and diesel costs were way down. Recreation and cultural services, again, a drop, as you know, as I keep saying, the facilities were closed a lot of the time during the year. So the expenditures to run the program were not, the programs and the facilities were not there to the same extent as the prior year. And then planning and development, very similar 2020 to 2019, but still you'll notice it's less than what was budgeted. Now the economic development container project was budgeted for, and it unfortunately didn't, well, it got started, but it didn't cost as much because it didn't get completed. So that's why that number is less than the budget. So overall, there's a $10 million excess of revenue over expenses this year. So up from the 4.8 million the prior year. So it was very healthy financially for the town and its consolidated entities. So before I jump to a few notes, are there any questions or comments?
Again, I can't see anyone there, Angela. That doesn't appear to be. Just shout out if you have a comment or a question you want to make. Have you seen none? Go ahead, Angela.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, I will just give a little more detail into that 110 million accumulated surplus at the end of the year. Again, as I mentioned, you'll see the general had a slight deficit this year, the prior year a surplus, but again, considering the year, I wouldn't say that's something to be concerned about. And as I already mentioned multiple times, the water and sewer had larger surpluses this year, but again, they weren't able to do, like, you weren't able to do Scott Avenue and Portage Road, which were planned. So as well as some of the major repairs you had planned to the water and sewer system. So that's not unexpected to see those surpluses there. If you want more detail about some of the numbers broken down differently, note 10 breaks it down by salary, wages, and donations and such. And there you see that big amortization number that, again, you don't budget for, but there's 3.7 million in expenses in the statement I just went over. And then finally, there's a lot of information here, so you can read through that at your leisure. But again, we just have to mention the economic uncertainty of the pandemic. And although it seemed to be okay for the town this year, it didn't affect your bottom line. We still don't know what it could happen in the coming days as things change from day to day. So that's my presentation of those statements, unless anyone else has questions.
Can we go back to the full screen, please?
Yes.
There we go. Okay, thank you very much, Angela. Thank you for the presentation. Any questions? I had a previous meeting with Angela to go over these statements, and one of the questions I asked is just how are we in a very strong position as far as the town is concerned financially, and the answer was yes. We've done a stellar job over the year and over the previous years. So congratulations to all members of council for holding the line and working through a very difficult time, and that is, of course, the pandemic, and to all staff who have worked tirelessly to adhere to the budgets, etc., brought in budgets that are acceptable to not only council but to the residents as well. I've been in the private sector for many years, and part of my job was as credit manager, and I have to tell you, anytime you get 94% collection on your receivables, you usually get an award from the credit manager nationally for that. So to Annette, job well done, Annette, and to your team on that particular situation as well. Going through the pandemic was a concern for sure, but we have been able to collect upwards of 93% of our tax bills that we've sent out. So job well done. Thank you to them. CEO, did you want to say anything?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. No, I will echo your comments, and a year of great uncertainty, but I think we held it together, and Annette did a great job, and the comments on the taxation receivable is certainly well received. And I will say that Annette had some better news right at the beginning of 2021 as well. So I guess we'll hold that until Angela's back this time next year to tell you the good news from 2021's taxes receivable already.
Don't do that to us. I'm sitting on the edge of my seat right now. I can't take that tension. Okay, give me some good news. Seriously, thank you to each and every one of you for working so collaboratively to get us to where we are today. If there's no further questions on the statements that have just been received on either the Airport Commission or the Waste Management situation, I need a motion to accept the financial statements as being presented. Councillor Roots, and seconded by Councillor Carmody. We'll make it official. Any questions on the motion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Then that is carried. Thank you very, very much. And again, thank you for working into the staff going through a very difficult period of time. I mean that sincerely. It's not been easy, but thank you for your diligence in bringing this forward this evening. for us all. Thank you very much, Angela. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
With that, with the next presentation, I'll need to call on Christine Mitchell, our Economic Development Officer, to introduce the Community Improvement Plan and the consultants. Christine, if you would, please.
Yes, thank you. Good evening, Mayor Sweet and councillors. With us this evening, we have Casper and Samantha from WSP. I will defer for them to actually introduce themselves and pronounce their names and give you a summary of the background report that they have compiled on the CIP.
Thank you.
Thank you, Christine. Thank you, Mayor Sweet and councillors. Samantha, are you able to share your screen?
Yes.
Perfect.
Okay, can everyone see it?
Yes, Samantha, you're coming in clear as a bell.
Awesome. Okay.
So good evening again, Mayor Sweet and members of council. Thank you for having us here tonight virtually. We're very excited to be here and to be working on this project. My name is Casper Koblau. I'm a senior planner with WSP, and I'm WSP's project manager for the Petawawa Community Improvement Plan project. Can everyone hear me clearly before I continue?
Yeah, everything's coming through loud and clear.
Terrific. So I'm joined tonight by my colleague, Samantha Gatchney, and I'll let Samantha introduce herself.
All right. Good evening, Mayor Sweet and councillors. As Casper said, my name is Samantha Gatchney, and I'm a planner with WSP. Tonight, I'll be speaking to the community engagement to date on this project. And with that, I'll leave it to Casper to give us an overview of the presentation tonight.
Thank you.
So this slide just provides a snapshot of what we'll be covering in the next 15 minutes or so, beginning with some general information on community improvement plans or CIPs, an overview of the project and the engagement to date, an overview of our background report and potential community improvement programs, finishing off with the next steps. So first things first, what is a CIP or a community improvement plan? A community improvement plan is a planning and economic development tool under the Ontario Planning Act and the Ontario Municipal Act. A community improvement plan establishes a framework to achieve a wide variety of goals tailored to the community. Typically includes financial incentive programs through grants and loans. And the image on the bottom of the slide just is intended to illustrate some of the potential community improvement plan goals, including beautification, environmental remediation, and affordable housing, to name a few. Community improvement plans provide tangible economic benefits as well as social and environmental benefits. The idea is to leverage municipal investment that will bring returns back to the local economy through the purchase of goods and services, such as building materials and contractors, increases in property values, and ultimately generation of tax revenues. As an example, in 2018 alone, in the city of Pembroke, for every $1 allocated to CIP grant programs, $3.45 were generated in construction activity. So the contents of a CIP document typically include a description of the community and business engagement that informed the plan, a recommended CIP project area, and this can include the entire municipality or be focused to specific areas, a vision and goals for the community improvement plan, financial incentive programs and eligibility criteria, proposed application processes and the administrative framework for issuing any financial incentives, municipal leadership strategies, marketing strategies, and monitoring and evaluation programs. This slide provides a very high-level overview of the overall CIP process, beginning with a background report through to preparation of the CIP, then council adoption, and finally implementation. Here we have an illustration of the work plan in a little bit more detail. The red boxes indicate the broad stages of the project. In blue on the left-hand side, you can see the engagement points and how these relate to each stage. And so speaking of engagement, I'm now going to let Samantha speak a little bit about the community engagement that we've undertaken to date.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Casper. So as Casper mentioned, we have undertaken some community engagement to date. So between April and May of 2021, we held an online community survey as well as a business survey. I'll speak to our community survey first. So we received a total of 187 survey responses, and the purpose of the survey was to seek the public's thoughts on Petawawa today, a vision for the town's tomorrow, and how the CIP could be used to benefit the community, including the identification of specific locations where improvements are desired. On your screen, you'll see a word cloud, which contains words that respondents use to identify what they think of as Petawawa tomorrow. So you can see common words such as shopping, amenities, family friendly. One participant, they described the future as a community hub with town events and local eateries as businesses. Petawawa will offer the charms of a small town community with hints of variety like a small city. Overall, the public envisions Petawawa as a featured destination complete with natural, commercial, and community amenities. So moving on, I want to talk about how the public responded to various benefits that the CIP can achieve. The public was asked to rank these benefits on a scale from 1 to 3, a rank of 1 being very important and a rank of 3 being the least important. An overwhelming number of responses, 87%, identified the attraction of new businesses to the community as very important. Other topics that were discussed or asked about what included improving the accessibility of commercial buildings, redeveloping contaminated sites, and providing support to businesses during the COVID-19 pandemic. These topics were ranked of similar importance by respondents in a range of 47% to 58%. The only exception being preserving the town's heritage and character, which 19% of respondents ranked as least important. Moving on, as I had mentioned, specific locations were identified by respondents in terms of needing improvement, redevelopment, and revitalization. The purpose of this was to understand the needs of the community. The most common locations mentioned were Petawawa Boulevard, Petawawa Plaza, Victoria Plaza, and the Petawawa Town Center subdivision, referred to by some respondents as the Sand Pit. While these locations were selected by the public in terms of need, it is recognized that many of these lands within the town are privately owned, and while the town cannot require business owners to apply for CIP programs, the programs can be designed to encourage higher uptake among the business community. Our last question on the community survey focused on asking what about other actions and improvements the town can undertake beyond financial incentives in terms of achieving community revitalization and improvement. There was particular interest among respondents in streetscaping, including beautification and enhancing sidewalks. The public also looked towards enhancing existing town assets, such as Petawawa Point, and improving tourism branding. Moving on to our business survey, we received 31 survey responses across 13 unique industries. To reach a broad business community, we worked with the Petawawa Business Advisory Network. And the point of this survey was to obtain feedback from local business owners regarding their thoughts on Petawawa's strengths and weaknesses as a place to operate a business, as well as opportunities for the CIP to provide support. Overall, we found that business owners appreciate the community-oriented nature of the town. And as one respondent answered, the perspective of people to shop local. The presence of the military, as well as a strong customer base, were also cited as a benefit to Petawawa's businesses. Meanwhile, some challenges included talent attraction and inadequate commercial space. Another survey question we asked business owners was to identify what types of potential incentive programs they would be interested in. These incentive programs will be further explained later in this presentation, but the point of this is to give an overview of what business owners are interested in based on the survey. So to gauge interest in these programs, we provided business owners with a sample of potential programs. Of these programs, respondents were most interested in temporary COVID-19 relief, landscaping and parking improvements, and rebates for planning and building permit fees. The other programs included in the survey received interest levels ranging from 25 to 47%. Overall, these responses provide insight into what types of programs should be included in Petawawa's CIP. While moving on to our next question was about COVID-19. So while it's acknowledged that many of the challenges identified cannot be addressed by the town, for example, provincially mandated closures, CIP programs can provide financial relief to businesses as they recover from the economic impact of COVID-19. Thus, businesses owners were asked more specifically about the types of temporary financial incentive programs that can support their businesses. The greatest interest, with 42% of responses, was in receiving funds to cover the costs to renovate in order to meet new health and safety requirements. Respondents were also interested in receiving funds to help with the costs associated with moving operations outdoors, as well as signage related costs related to COVID-19. And next, I'll leave it to Casper. He'll go explain more detail about the background report itself.
Thanks, Samantha. And there's more details about the community engagement and the analysis within the background report. In addition, the background report sets the foundation for developing the community improvement plan. So it specifically includes a community profile, an overview of the applicable planning and regulatory framework, so the Planning Act and the Municipal Act specifically, a summary of the town's economic development strategy and other applicable local plans, an assessment of local needs and opportunities, as well as a series of potential incentive programs for consideration. So getting a little bit into those potential incentive programs, in the next few slides, I'm going to review at a high level those programs that we included in our background report. So these are not ranked in order of importance, they're just ranked alphabetically. And it's important to note that each program would, if included in the CIP, include a specific set of eligibility criteria. So the first potential incentive program is an accessibility grant to assist businesses in improving accessibility, for example, by installing automatic door openers or ramps. The next program is an affordable housing grant program to support the development of affordable ownership or rental housing. A COVID-19 relief grant could be developed to allow businesses to undertake improvements related to meeting COVID-19 health and safety recommendations, such as those that Samantha discussed, like installing plexiglass or signage. A brownfield redevelopment grant could be developed to encourage the remediation, rehabilitation, redevelopment of brownfield sites, ultimately with the goal of establishing new businesses or new housing in the town. A building facade improvement grant could be developed to promote a more attractive commercial streetscape. These types of programs have been very successful in some other communities in establishing a more attractive commercial streetscape and beautifying commercial cores. The images at the bottom of this slide are before and after from Hearst, Ontario. An environmental site, just one more, Sam. An environmental site assessment program grant could help to offset the costs of property owners to complete environmental studies that would be required as part of a development application. A planning, building, and demolition fee rebate could be established to assist with the costs associated with planning, building, and demolition fees, so the fees that the town charges. A temporary mobile public market grant could be developed to support the establishment of temporary mobile entertainment, retail, and gathering spaces. So this kind of program could be used to support the establishment of a container market or a similar concept. A retail, commercial, or industrial market study program could be developed to provide financial incentive for projects that involve business planning and undertaking market studies. A signage improvement grant could be developed to allow businesses to undertake improvements related to signage, including the installation of permanent signage. So this would create the opportunity for a potentially more established and beautified character in commercial areas such as along Petawawa Boulevard. Finally, a tax increment equivalent grant could help offset the costs for property owners where property assessment increases as a result of development. So this is done by rebating a portion of the property tax increment, so the increase after the redevelopment, rebating that back to the property owner for a certain amount of years that is phased out over time. So the next steps, I think we're just about done the first next step, which is to present to you here tonight. Our next step will be to review and finalize the background report based on any feedback that we receive from council tonight or from the public in the coming days and weeks. We'll then prepare the draft community improvement plan and circulate it to council staff and the public in mid-July 2021 for feedback. And then we'll have a municipal workshop, which will be an opportunity for us to have conversations with council and especially the public about potential CIP incentive programs that we propose in the draft community improvement plan. So with that, I say thank you for your interest and your time tonight, and we look forward to answering any questions that you may have.
Thank you. If you could go back to the full screen, I'll be able to see members of committee. There we go. Thank you very much. Well, thank you, Casper and Samantha. Appreciate it. It's a very long document. It's a lot to digest at this point in time. But nonetheless, thank you for that. And I'm sure there are some questions that members of committee would like to ask or any comments with regards to the presentation. James, and then Gary.
Thank you, Mayor Sweet. I'd just like to thank Christine for spearheading this initiative, and Samantha and Casper for joining us tonight and presenting this very nicely and succinctly and in a very clear and concise way. So I just have a couple of questions. At the very beginning of the presentation, you mentioned that the CIP, you mentioned there was a tie-in with the CIP to the Municipal Act. And I was just curious, is there some legislative tie-in there of some type? And the other question I had to do with the incentive programs. Are these incentive programs funded through the tax base, or is there grant money available for it? I'm sure the answer is probably going to be a little bit of both, but anyway, just a word or two about that, about where the money would come from to fund these incentive programs, and just kind of curious how big Christine's budget is going to be next year.
Well, thanks for the question, Councillor Carmody. Christine, would you like me to take a stab at those? Yeah, okay, great. So with respect to your first question about the Municipal Act, so it's discussed in detail in the background report in some detail, but essentially there is a provision, I think you would call it, in the Municipal Act, which prevents bonusing. So essentially what that means is that a municipality cannot give money to a business with the exception of through a community improvement plan. So if a municipality establishes a community improvement plan, with their goals and the types of programs that they intend to give out money for, that is sort of the loophole, for a lack of a better word. And it's not really that. It's a provision that allows municipalities to give or lend money to private businesses. So that's, I think, the answer to the first question. In answer to the second question about where the funding would come from, so typically these types of programs are, municipally funded from the tax base. I know that from time to time, the provincial government does pony up money to put into the pot. So I think there was the OMAFRA RED, Rural Economic Development. I think it was a program at one point offered money for that, and I'm not sure if that's still going or not. But to sort of answer it in a nutshell, yes, typically it is municipally funded or a little bit of both, as you suggested. And I think in the background report, we've included some examples of what other municipalities in the Ottawa Valley budget for their community improvement programs.
And I think, James, just for clarity, Annette can quantify this, but there was some funds put away during the budget through Christine's budget to begin the process, not only do the study, but to begin perhaps later on this year to assist in moving some of these CIP programs out. So it was included there. Now, I'm sorry, I just don't remember what it is. I'm sure Christine has it right at the tip of her tongue. She would know. But there has been money put aside and it is taxpayer funded, as Casper has said.
Yeah, and so I thank you for the answer. That clarifies a few things for me. And the reason I asked the question is that it is an area of concern for elected officials at the municipal level, because property tax is a different type of tax, and it's always a question of to what extent should business be funded with the property tax, because we know that property tax is intended to improve properties, and of course the business community pays a little bit more. There's a special class for the business community, so it's always a bit of a balancing act. So that's why I asked that question. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Gary.
Thank you, Mayor Sweet. Thanks, Christine, Casper, and Samantha. This seems like a very exciting program. And it was very interesting to note, you mentioned that for every dollar Pembroke issued in grants, they received a $3.45 return. So I have two questions. One is, of all the different community improvement plan programs that are available, is there one that outperforms all the others in terms of return on investment? And my second question is, obviously this isn't going to be a bottomless pit of money if we do establish this CIP. There's going to be a maximum amount that we'll issue in grants for each year. How does that work? Is it on a first come, first served basis, or do we have a committee that we put together that makes a decision on who the recipients for these grants are?
Thanks for the question, Councillor Service. I can certainly take a kick at that. So in terms of a program which outperforms the others, that's a little bit tricky to say. Certainly some programs, like for example, the tax increment incentive program, that's only granted, if there is an increase in assessment. So there's no sort of risk to the municipality, because that that the assessment value has gone up, and even though you're going to rebate the increment back to the property owner for, say, the first 4 years, in future years the municipality will get the full amount of the increase. So that's one specific one where I'd say that there's less risk, but sort of generally speaking, I think it's important to remember that there are also sort of indirect benefits that can't be measured as precisely as that. So specifically, beautification to the community, and bringing in tourists, for example, or encouraging folks to shop locally in Petawawa rather than going to Pembroke or something like that, because it looks nicer, it's more attractive, more charming. It is somewhat difficult to measure those benefits. So maybe I'll leave it at that for that question. And then in terms of, I guess, funding or allocating funding and granting, incentives, the details of that sort of process will be flushed out through the remainder of the process. There's a couple different ways to approach it, but essentially, the municipality has the latitude to decide how they want to distribute the funds. And a lot of municipalities do establish a CIP committee that might include members of council, and it might include some staff members as well, or maybe even a member of the public or the business community to help in distributing the funds and ultimately approving the grant applications.
Thanks, Casper.
Pleasure.
Teresa.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mine is more of some comments, because I have the privilege of sitting at the business advisory table and am a little bit more in the know of some of the finer details. But again, thanks to Samantha, Casper, and the whole team at WSP, as well as Christine, for all your work at moving this milestone forward. I'd also like to say a big thank you to all the business community folks, as well as the community who took the time to respond to the questionnaire. It was a relatively short window. It was during a lockdown, and I know our business community had a lot of things on their plate. And I think that we've received, Christine, I know you'll be able to help me out here, more than a 10% response from the business community, which I think is absolutely stellar. Usually when you're talking online surveys and whatnot, you're really happy if you get between 8 and 10%. That's considered a pretty good benchmark. So again, I'd like to say a big thank you, and I certainly look forward to hearing more input from the community as we shape this CIP process. And I have no doubt that it will be reflective of the needs and be a great offering for our business community. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you for your comments. Further? No further comments? Well, to Samantha and Casper, and of course to Christine for bringing this forward. Thank you. There's a lot in there that I think we all knew, but it's one thing to know it, but it's another thing to see it in black and white and get some feedback from what the community sees is necessary to go forward. So thank you for that. I think we've over the years been very strong on planning and all kinds of planning documents, and that's the reason why we've been as successful as we have had going forward. And it's not all doom and gloom. I can tell you we've made huge strides over the last. We're just a young community, you know, in terms of other communities around us that are 100 years old, and we're starting at 20. Well, part of our committee meeting tonight, we're going to talk about the 25 years is what we're celebrating next year. And we have made huge strides. I can tell you, if we were sitting here 25 years ago, and if I had said to you, this is what we're going to be like in 25 years time, you would probably want to lock me up. But we have done a stellar job, the members of council over the years, to get us to where we are today. Still a lot of work to do, and that's clear. But I don't think we've ever shied away from that position of having to work very hard and get Christine to work overtime, getting things done, and Karen Cronier as well. But again, it's nice to see it down in black and white as to what people want. We knew that there's some things out there that are absolutely essential, and that and at this point in time, I'd like to be able to talk to the community about the quote sand pit, and we hear about that on a regular basis. All that to say, we don't own the sand pit. We own a private corporation owns the sand pit. We own very little in the way of land, and that's one of the challenges. But this community engagement situation that we've got here, the community improvement plan, will go a long way to address some of the issues that I think council has talked about over the years. And thank you to your team from WSP for highlighting it, bringing it forward. It is a good read. I can't say that I read all 110 pages, but I did read a lot of them, and I don't disagree with some of the comments that have been made. We do lack a certain level of service, and we're all diligent working towards getting that level of service for the taxpayers again. So it's been highlighted here, and to Christine and her team, thank you. Karen Cronier as well. Thank you very much for the presentation this evening, and we look forward to rolling this out going forward. So again, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of council. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So that's for information, so we don't need a motion at this point in time. With that, then, we'll go back to the agenda and we'll talk about the fire department. Who's on? Oh, the deputy chief. There you are, Craig. You've got the activity report for May 21st.
Thank you.
Away.
Thank you, Your Worship, and good evening, members of council. I have the activity report for the month of May. For the incidents, we responded to 11 incidents throughout the month. We had 4 open air burning. We had a couple residents that were fined for having no permit or what they were burning, but we are still looking at charges with some of the incidents reference to the open air burning. For fire alarms, we had 2 fire alarms due to the smoke detectors, that one was taken down, and another one, the crew were able to put back up and get the systems back in order. We had a smell of gas over on Ravenwood, which a dog actually jumped up and actually turned on the natural gas stove, which sent natural gas throughout the home. The crews ventilated the home and made sure that the home was safe. We had a brush fire by the water tower. It was approximately 100 feet by 100 feet. It was in the evening when the call came in. We responded with 8 personnel. The crews were able to bring that under control. And we had the Ontario Provincial Police show attend the scene due to a couple of youths have been in that area. And we have had some problems in that area with youths in and out of the bushes and that have lit fires. So we're working with the OPP to try to mitigate those issues. We had a garbage container catch fire down at the Petawawa Point. We don't know how it started, but the crews responded for a grass fire on Black Bay Road, and it was actually 3 fires. We're not sure of how it was set, but the crews controlled it and extinguished it. And we had another fire in the afternoon of May 31st on Industrial and Winston Avenue. The fire was 50 feet by 50 feet. The crews arrived, it was creeping, which is meaning that the fire, the front of the fire, the head of the fire was slowly moving. And with the fire weather being an extreme, we're lucky that it didn't take off on us. So the crews were able to stop that, but there was some youths again seen in that area. Fire prevention, there wasn't much activity. There was a couple inspections completed for requests, and there was just a couple of briefs that was done up by the chief fire inspector, but nothing pending in the fire prevention. We're hoping to get our inspections back in order once everything starts opening up in the province. So that's what we're looking at. For the residential smoke and CO alarms, we had a total of 7 through the month, and that brings our numbers up to 94 to date. For open air burn permits, they didn't move. They're still at 923, but our inspectors are out full force trying to get all the new permits that we're trying to get issued for the residents. For maintenance, we just had a vehicle, had a safety check, some minor repairs. Buildings, we had Station 2 ceiling tiles completed out in the Bay areas, which was a big job, and the LED lights are installed so it can save us on some money and energy. And it looks really, really good, brightened up the bays, which is nice. And then just some minor repairs on equipment. The fire chief, for a fire chief's comments, again, the ceiling tiles were installed and that's as per budget. So one of the budgetary items were completed. And there's a discussion between the chief of the CNL Fire Department and our chief, Chief Knott, about a regional training center. And they're going to establish one up at CNL. And that's my report, Your Worship, for the month of May.
Thank you very much, Deputy Chief. I'll open up for questions of committee of the report. Councillor Roots and then Councillor Sabran.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Greg, thank you for the your comments here this evening and our briefing. The discussions there with the CNL, Chief McRae, was there any mention about our own facility being integrated in with the CNL training center for ours to be used as well? There was some talk about that before, about ours being used in the local Renfrew County area. Just wondering if CNL was going to have anything, if we would be part of that then.
Well, as to the CNL situation, I haven't been briefed on it by the chief, but I could tell you the town of Petawawa, we're not looking at this point in time of going with the regional fire center. There is a lot of work with regional fire center. What we're looking with our department, and the program is looking at a learning contract with the Ontario Fire Marshal through the Ontario Fire College, so to speak. And so the props that we have set up in our training site is going to aid our personnel. I think we get into some legality issues of bringing people in and training them, and to have a regional training center, it's a lot of setup. It's we have to get our instructors, get the proper instructors certified. We have to get our personnel certified, and it's a lengthy process. So hopefully CNL can get up and running. It would be a benefit to the area and Renfrew County. But right now, I think it's just at the beginning stages of discussion with the chiefs.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Sabra. Teresa?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the Deputy Chief. Craig, my question has to do with sort of a follow-up in regards to the fact that the weather is pretty extreme right now. And I've had a couple of calls from folks who live in the area of Petawawa Terrace Park. And with respect to concerns about a lot of the deadfall and the debris and the hot temperatures and lack of rain, and concerns about potential of that igniting or starting to flare up in the not too distant future. I'm wondering if you might have any comments or any insight into what is being looked at for that. Thank you.
Your worship, to Councillor Sabra, very good point. We understand of the situation with the Petawawa Terrace, and this being a provincial park, we have been talking with the ministry and voicing our concerns. There's a lot of deadfall, and with the buildup index brings fire intensity if we were to have a fire or if it to occur. We do have a meeting we're looking at setting up next week with June 23rd with the ministry to discuss these items, these issues. And we're aware of this is quite a popular attraction, especially during the COVID. And there's a lot of traffic of our residents going through there, which increases the potential of a risk of fire. We have been looking at the areas, we know our problem areas. We've been pre-planning some ideas. We've actually and I know I've stressed this before in other council meetings, but we actually follow the fire weather indices every day at 1:30 when they're sent to us from the ministry. And we're watching to make sure that with our burning bylaw, and that if there is a fire that occurs, that we have the resources ready to go, such as Garrison Petawawa. We make sure that they're not in a fire situation where they're working out on the ranges and their resources are deployed. We know that there was 2 fire crews from the MNR that were stationed out at the airport. And during the extreme conditions, this rain that's happening right now, occurring right now, is helping the situation too. But we are working with the ministry, and we're looking at to hopefully minimize the chance of a fire disaster, so to speak.
Thank you.
So just by way, and I'll get to Tom in a minute. I've been talking to one lady with regards to this. It's an unusual situation at this park, this Ontario park. It's a nature reserve, and under the management plan with the Ontario parks, a nature reserve is just that, a nature reserve. It has to be left the way it is. So when there's trees falling and they go down, they're supposed to be left where they are as part of the actual management plan, which was a public consultation way back when with this. So the only time you're allowed to go in there, or they go in there to remove them, is when they are falling over the trails or on the roads, and they remove them, but they simply don't remove them. They just put them into the bush. That is the concept as far as this nature reserve is concerned. I do have a call into our member of parliament, the MPP, who is the Minister of Natural Resources, to have a chat with him, although I understand that is not part of his portfolio. But yeah, it can be a concern. Kids in there and doing things, and people with maybe a cigarette or whatever it might be, thinking it's okay. So there was some concerns about the people around there. That's been going like that for many, many years. I remember when Chief Charette was involved as the chief, he was concerned about that going back many, many years ago as well. So fortunately, there hasn't been any incidents in that particular situation. But if you're going to be talking to the ministry, I'd like you to keep me in the loop as to what they're saying. I think that's important to find out for the whole of the community. If you could do that, I'd appreciate it. But there is a difference between a normal park and a nature reserve, apparently, and that's what that's designated. Tommy.
Craig, has there been any thought of putting a fire ban on local fire pits with the drought that we have going on at the current time?
The chief and I, we have been in discussions, but we don't feel at this point in time that we require a fire ban. I was looking at the numbers today. The numbers have been going down, especially the precipitation that we've had in a couple days. And again, the resources are fresh here in the area. So there's in the future so far, there's no, we're not looking at putting on a fire ban.
Okay. I'm sorry, Teresa, did you have another question? No, okay. Okay, further questions? If not, then I need a motion to accept the report, please. Teresa, seconded by Gary, all in favor? It is carried, thank you. Okay, the fire budget, is there anything you want to talk to us about the budget?
No, we're on track right now with their budget. We're just looking at purchasing another item, a budgetary item, which is the fit testing machine. We're probably going to have that purchased this week, early next week. But other than that, I don't have anything to.
No concerns you want to share with council. Council committee, do you have any concerns or any questions on the budget? Seeing none, we'll receive that as information. Thank you very much.
Hey, thanks. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Community services. Kelly, good evening.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Activity report for May. I'll start off at the top. You'll see a number of references for Laurentian Highlands park design. So we're well underway. We recently, a staff stakeholder team met with our consultants, WSP, to take a look at some high-level concepts that they had done up based on the type of park that it is and its location, etc. Staff provided a number of comments on the overall design, things they liked, they didn't like, functionality, the theme of the park in terms of modern versus green versus traditional, and excuse me. And then they've taken that feedback home to do some more fine tuning of their concepts. The next step is to put together a public feedback session. So they're currently working on that this week. I hope by the end of the week to finalize something, and then they'll be able to get that plan back to me. And then our goal would be hopefully by the end of June. It may not happen till early July, but draw some feedback from the residents of Laurentian Highlands Park and get their thoughts on two high-level concepts that we would provide to them. Once that's done, then WSP would go away basically for the summer and use all those ideas and feedback that's presented to them and fine-tune the concepts down to a detailed design and an accompanying budget. And then it'll be our goal in September to be back to committee with what they've worked on and have them present their design plan to council for approval. And once the design and accompanying budget is approved, then I would take that and bring a report forward in terms of budget and whether council wishes to proceed to build that park next year or not. But we would have a detailed design and a pretty close estimate on exactly what the park would cost to build, and then we would just proceed accordingly. The arena floor project is moving along. We are done the installation of the foam layer, and they began this morning putting the poly layer down on top of the foam. That should take them about a day to 2 days, and then once they're done that, Simcoe will start to lay the chairs and the piping. They have about a month to do that. The header is in place, and so they have about a month to lay all the piping down. Once that's done, then the pour happens, and right now we're still on target to do our pour around the 14th of July, somewhere in that week. And hopefully the weather cooperates. Pouring concrete is not something you want to do in extreme heat and humidity, so we're hoping we're not in the middle of a heat wave on on the week of July 14th, but we'll keep our fingers crossed, and that's the timetable we're currently working with. And then just lastly, under admin services, I'll reference the Ontario Winter Games. So we have met with the new games manager, Cindy Burwell, on a number of occasions. We're still awaiting which sport we will host. They're looking at moving Ringette to Arnprior and have asked us if we would be capable of hosting sledge hockey. We have provided them all our information in terms of the arena, and the next step is we're to be receiving a team of folks from the provincial sport organization of sledge hockey to come to the building and just check out the building and do a bit of an audit. And then hopefully we'll get some confirmation after that as to which sport we will be hosting. So that's where the process is at currently. Under tourism services, you'll see that we did some drone and video promotion down at the Petawawa Heritage Village on May the 6th. And then Colin and I attended our municipal wayfinding strategy workshop, which was held on May the 13th. Under parks and facilities, so you'll see that at Petawawa Point, we opened up the boat launch there as part of the pre-opening or step one phase, which happened a couple weeks ago. I will tell you, and council's aware that in our budget this year, we have dollars to repair the boat launch, and back last winter, we thought if this is a normal year, we would do that around the end of July or early August. It's not a normal year. The water is so low in the river. I've never seen it this low at this time of year before. And to be honest with you, the part of the launch that's damaged is almost out of the water. So we're going to proceed the week of the 22nd. So next week on Tuesday, we will be blocking off the launch for 3 to 4 days, we hope, as long as the water levels and the weather cooperate. We will be dewatering an area, nowhere near as much of an area as we thought we might have to do, given the level of the river, and doing the necessary repairs. And we're hoping that we can do the repairs Tuesday to Friday and have the launch back open for the weekend, so we don't lose any weekend time at the launch. And so that's currently our plan. We're trying to line up the various contractors right now. So it's a little bit of a squeeze, a little bit of a rush, but we're trying to take advantage of the fact that the water is so low right now. And if we can get it done, the beauty thing about it is then the launch will be available all through July and August, which is peak season, right? So that's currently our plan as of today. Our skateboard park pilot project opened up on May the 26th, and our bike park is now opened as well. So there's lots of activity around those two facilities if you happen to be by. In terms of capital works, our condenser deck has been finished. So if you go behind the Civic Center, you'll see this nice brand new deck with a full railing. It's much larger than the old deck. It's in the typical location where the old deck was. So it's ready to go in terms of accepting our new condenser, which will be here in early August. And sort of Simcoe, as soon as they're done the floor install, they'll move over to doing our condenser. The hall washrooms are 95% complete. Actually, it might even be more than 95. I just threw that number in there, but we're waiting on a couple parts for flush valves. Both men's and women's washrooms, for all intents and purposes, are complete. There's just a couple hardware components that were back ordered that we're waiting on. So that should be rectified shortly within the next week or two. Everything else has either been completed, or you can see at the bottom of that list, there's a long list of things that we're waiting on that are either back ordered or there's delays in getting the delivery, and it's all due to COVID. The supply chains have been affected by COVID, and it's making things that for us that normally might take 6 to 8 weeks. Now it's 12 to 16 weeks. So it is what it is. These things will come in through the summer, and as things come in, we'll get the work done. Under program services, Well, obviously we haven't run a lot of programs. We haven't been able to run programs or nothing indoors. Of course, with the stay-at-home order, nothing outdoors. So it's been a quiet month through May. I can tell you though that we have received permission from the Ontario government to run summer camps, along with a guidance document that is similar to last year. It's actually probably not as restrictive as the guidelines that were put forward last summer. Very similar in the way that the guideline works. And so we've taken that guideline, and Shallon's gone and redeveloped her camp and has put it in place for this year. We've been taking registrations for well over a week now, and we're on our way. We've hired staff. Senior supervisor camp staff have started already and are working on day-to-day programming, and we're ready to go for summer camp, so that's good news. Of course, Civic Center Days and Canada Day have been officially canceled. We put that out on our website and social media platforms, so people are duly notified. I did see on the news today that, of course, our federal Canada Day celebration is virtual this year due to the where we're at with the pandemic. So it'll be another similar to last summer in terms of Canada Day. We have tried to find positives. So if you've been following along in our social media, we call and put together a Canada Day prize package. We're doing a draw for a gas barbecue and all the things you need to throw a little backyard barbecue, food, booze, other things that just go along with a barbecue. And people, residents of Petawawa have up till June 28th to get their entry in, and then we'll be doing the draw and doing the presentation shortly afterwards. Under rental activity, really not much to report. We've had a few groups into our building that are permitted during the pandemic. Excuse me. We can't allow any indoor activity until step 2. And even then, it's only 5 people. So there's not a lot we can do with only allowing 5 people into the building. We're looking forward to step 3, which will be in early August. And step 3, the government hasn't identified numbers yet. So it'll be more than 5. We just don't know how much more at this point. It's too early to tell. But we're ramping up towards being able to get back to some sort of normalcy inside the building during the month of August. And staff are busy working away right now on fall programming and our community guides coming along. We're hoping we can get back to some sort of normal programming and services come the fall. And that's my report, Mr. Mayor. I'd be glad to answer any questions, Councillor.
Thank you very much, Kelly. Open it up for comments, questions. Murray, then James, and then Teresa.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, Kelly drove around the Civic Center today, as a matter of fact, and checked out the fencing and the bike park area, and all looking good. Even checked out the nice pop-up market, and maybe this is a question for Christine and Kelly for yourself to answer. Looking good there. Looks like they were putting on maybe some canopies on the front of the sea containers. Are we all ready for the weekend? I'm hearing some good commercials on the media and a lot of good buzz on social media. So are we ready for the kickoff this weekend?
I will definitely defer to Christine on that one.
Thank you.
Yeah, they did work on putting some canopy pieces over the units today, so we are progressing, and we are looking forward to having a very soft launch. It was supposed to be a much larger launch, of course, as part of Civic Center Days, but yeah, a soft launch and consideration of the gathering limits, that sort of thing. But the participants in the pop-up market are using them as independent, storefronts, so they administer them in that same format. The units are designed so that people can approach, stand on the deck, and view the contents within the marketplace and procure their wares from our wonderful attending vendors.
Very good. Thank you. I'm looking for some good feedback on that. Thank you so much.
James?
Thank you, Mayor Sweet. Thanks for your report, Kelly. And glad to see that the park design is coming along well for Laurentian Highlands. You mentioned that there was a Well, you mentioned traditional park, modern park, and green park. Could you elaborate a little bit on what the difference is between those?
Yeah, some of the elements are more natural. The play structures, the play features are more natural and use more natural types of materials. Some of the concepts involve more traditional design, especially around the play equipment. It's very similar to play equipment you would see in other neighborhood parks. Your standard sort of composite, steel and plastic structure and other sort of smaller structures or side amenities, slides and things like that off to the side. Some of the designs use just some more modern things you might see in a newly designed park in terms of, how they would access the play area or the open field area that's there from the stormwater pond. One of the designs is very traditional. Everything's in one spot. One of the other designs has things more spread out along Liam Street. So they got a lot of good feedback from staff during the session, a lot of things to consider. We sent them away with certainly some homework to do. And so, they'll be busy working away at that. And we look forward to the, some of the things that they'll either discover or research out of the questions that came back to them and having them sort of put some final touches onto their designs. Things will still be fairly conceptual during the public feedback session, which is what we want. We want lots of ideas and lots get the juices flowing, and we want to hear what people think and what they have to say. And once they're done that feedback with residents of the subdivision, then they'll take that away plus what they've received to date, and they'll start to fine tune the design and have something more at a detailed design level when we approach council.
Thanks, Kelly.
Teresa?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a comment through you to Kelly. Kelly, thank you very much for the update with respect to the work for the boat launch. Certainly, yes, the water is low, and you can at least see where the big potholes are or the big holes are, and gauge your backup accordingly. But it'll be really nice to see that get fixed, because we have a lot of traffic there already. So thank you very much for that update.
And Kelly, further on that, is 4 days enough to do the job and get the cement hardened, so to speak? Yeah. Is it some special cement?
Yeah. So the cement we're using, it can actually cure underwater. So depending on where the pour is and the water level, in talking to the contractors we're using, we think this is doable in 3 to 4 days.
Okay, fair enough. If it takes 5 days, I'd rather see it take 5 days and get it fixed properly rather than 4 days and rush it and then 2 years down the road you're doing it again type of thing,
Yeah, we wouldn't do that.
No, I know, but there's people want to get out on the water and do their fishing, right? So for 3 or 4 days they could go up to the base and launch up there.
Yeah, or they can go to Pembroke Marina, or there's lots of areas around where you can launch your boat. So okay. we will advertise starting tomorrow that we're going to be doing this work next week.
Sure. Okay.
And our anticipated length of downness, and so people will be notified. A sign will also go up on site, so people should have lots of notice and be able to plan accordingly.
Yeah, and I've had some calls with regards to probably breaking axles and trailer parts and all that sort of good stuff. So for the regulars, they'll be looking forward to getting it fixed so that it's the way it should be type thing. So good for you. Okay, further on the report. And I need a motion to accept it, please. Murray, seconded by James. No questions, all in favor? Opposed to any, it's carried. Thank you. Okay. CS 05-2021, Kelly, the 25th anniversary and some of the work that we've done to date.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the report's pretty self-explanatory. I didn't put a lot of detail in there. We're still pretty early in the process. But as council knows and was mentioned earlier tonight, next year on July 1st marks the 25th anniversary of the amalgamated town of Petawawa. With that sort of silver anniversary opportunity, we also have an opportunity to have some kind of celebration. So we've been working with an ad hoc committee, a mixture of just staff and council members over the past number of months to just talk about what that might look like and what might be possible. We have put a framework together, which I've included with this report tonight. We've tried to come up with an event that provides for all sorts of interests, different ages, activities that are, for the most part, most of them are free. There are some, higher cost type things that have a pretty good ticketed fee attached to them in terms of cost. There's a number of performing events. Our standard Canada Day is in there, just beefed up quite a bit. It provides an opportunity to also, celebrate the fact that we got through COVID. I mean, everything that we see right now shows us it'll probably be the fall or even early next year before we're truly fully out of this pandemic. Provides the town an opportunity to not only celebrate our 25th, but to celebrate getting through 2 years of pandemic. And certainly it provides an occasion to, for people in Petawawa, residents and or visitors to come and celebrate Petawawa and everything that Petawawa has been able to accomplish over the last 25 years. And as the mayor mentioned earlier, 25 years ago, it might have been hard to envision what Petawawa would look like today. It's a very different looking municipality than it was 25 years ago. And, we have an opportunity to celebrate that. The event itself, we would organize it in a way that cost-wise, it would fall in line with what our event budget is in community services from year to year. From an expense over revenue standpoint, we would try to build in revenue generating opportunities or through ticket sales, sponsorship, and those things that we can do with events to generate revenue to offset as much of the cost as possible. We'd also look for grants from Ministry of Sport, Tourism and Heritage and Culture to assist with that. And so in terms of cost to the tax base, it wouldn't really change from what we normally budget. The other thing I've shared in this report with you is with that silver anniversary celebration, we also have an opportunity to leave some sort of legacy for the future, some sort of legacy for the next 25 years. And we had a lot of discussion around the table amongst other staff in the organization, bounced a lot of different ideas around. And, at the end of the day, the notion of a comfort station along the Algonquin Trail just seemed to tick all the boxes from a tourism standpoint, from a service standpoint, from a recreation and a programming standpoint. It would provide us with a location for our visitor information center. As we develop our tourism strategies and work towards building ATV and snowmobile friendly community, we would have the opportunity to create a real destination along the Algonquin Trail. It could be 4-season, even when you get off your snowmobile and come inside and warm up a little bit, maybe have a coffee or hot chocolate, get some information on what there is to do in Petawawa or where you can stay or where you can get supplies or services. And if we provide these types of opportunities, then it'll really assist people when they're doing their trip planning to understand that if you're on the major A trail or you're ATVing through this part of Ontario, that Petawawa is the place that you want to stop, and the services are right there. So what I've included for your consideration is a recommendation to, in principle, move forward with the design of a comfort station. At this point in time, we don't know how much it would cost. We could make some really loose guesstimates, but you know, first thing is first, we need to hire somebody that can do a design and do a high level costing for us to give us an idea of what it would cost, and then we just move forward in that fashion and work our way through the more normal building and development steps that we would with any other park or facility. We do have, as I mentioned in the report, each year we've been setting aside $250,000 for the last number of years to build the new arena floor. Of course, that project will be finished in a couple months, and so if we were to use that money next year, then again, it would have a minimal impact on the tax base moving forward. I think that's it, Mr. Mayor. If anybody has any questions, or I know you might want to say a few words, and maybe I'll just.
Yeah, sure. Well, thank you, Kelly. And let me just say that, so the actual celebration, and I think we're all looking forward to getting out and enjoying ourselves. Canada Day and Civic Center Days hasn't been in place for the last couple of years, and this will be 3 years. It'll be a joint Canada Day, Civic Center Days celebration for this year, that year in particular. And I wanted, I think the general thrust of the group was we want to do it and do it upright. The money that we're saving from this year and the money that we would normally spend next year would hopefully put us in a place where the event would not impact the tax rate at all. I think that's one of the things. The framework that you see there is the skeleton, and it's certainly not complete. There's lots of things that should still be going on, and I would encourage members of committee or council, I should say, and committee to think of things that they might want to see involved there. I want it to be an action-packed weekend. I think that the folks of Petawawa deserve that. They've gone through 2 years of staying at home, and I think they would like to have quite a celebration, an old-time celebration. Come back to the community, come back to Petawawa for the weekend type of thing. And so I would encourage everyone to take a look at this and make suggestions. Not everything that could be suggested, of course, can be done. I'm trying. I think the group would like to see it as painless as possible in terms of the costs involved in that. But unfortunately, that some of these things do cost money, and if you want to have a first-class show, it will cost some money. But nonetheless, I think there's been some great ideas that come forward for the actual celebration itself. As far as the legacy project is concerned, I looked at this through my eyes, and I wanted to try and come up with something, and I'm sure committee members can speak to this as well, that would benefit as many residents of our community as possible. And as Kelly has said, I think this one will tick all of the boxes for those who are walking, cycling, snowmobiling, ATVs, walkers, the market, the recreation facilities that are over there. I don't know whether members of committee get numbers of calls with regards to the recreation facility over there, and there's no washroom facilities there other than porta potties. And I think there's an opportunity to do something and do it up right. It is a legacy project, and I also want to see something there, and we talked about this. There were 10 individuals who had the vision to bring the two communities together. And I'd like to see that placed there, their names on a reader board that would be part of the structure if committee endorses this particular situation. That was a huge leap, and it wasn't always that popular back 25 years ago. But I think that was the right decision that was made 25 years ago, and I think we see the proof of that today. So I fully support this. As Kelly has alluded to, there should be no impact on the tax rate. We already have that as a line item in Kelly's budget. That could be carried forward next year. And I don't know either how much something like this might cost, but I'd like to see us proceed at least to find out roughly what sort of details that might cost in terms of dollars and cents. You have some sort of conceptual ideas there. That does not mean what you see there would be actually be the end result, but this would be on our property, not on the county's property or the Algonquin Trail property. It would be on our property, and but it would be in close proximity to the Algonquin Trail, both the Asphalt Trail and the Stone Dust Trail as well. So I'm fully supportive of this particular initiative, and still got a lot of work to do to plan this event. I think we can do it. I'll leave it up to the other two members of our committee that may want to say a few words, and then we can open it up for a general discussion with the rest of the council. Teresa.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. There's been a lot of discussion, as you have alluded to date, to make this event robust for our residents, to bring business into the community, and to make it an all-around fantastic weekend celebrating 25 years as the town of Petawawa. I am absolutely and 100% behind the Comfort Center. I think that it will be very much a sought-after venue for our many trail users, and certainly will show great leadership by the town of Petawawa. And I'm just really excited about the opportunity, hopefully, to put COVID behind us in the not too distant future, and to be able to make 2022 a wonderful celebration. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Murray.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Absolutely agree with everything that has been said already. This is like Kelly mentioned, it checks all the boxes. It's going to take us to a different level. We need an information center. This is going to promote tourism and business. It's going to bring the community together. The trail system is a big part of our future. We need this, and I think it's a great asset. So I'm in full support of it, and I think the community will be right behind us. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, let's open it up for the rest of members of committee and council. Any comments? Gary?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Kelly, that 25th anniversary, I guess Kelly, Murray, everybody, Teresa, and everybody in the committee, good job. The celebration for that 25th anniversary weekend looks fantastic. I'm especially excited about the 80s tribute bands. That's right up my alley. I just have one suggestion for you about the 5 and the 10K run. I know most of our enrollment will be local runners, but if we do want to have some people come from out of town to run in our event, it'd be better to have that on a Saturday so they could come and run and stay over and spend some money and join us in our celebration. In terms of the legacy project, I think that's a fantastic idea. It will really service all of the users of that trail very well. I just have a couple questions for you about it. I'm just wondering, obviously that might kickstart Christine's concept of the container market in that area. I'm just wondering how that's going to mesh with Christine's vision of that area for her container market. And I also heard you mention it might be a place where someone could get a cup of coffee or a hot chocolate. Are we proposing to put some kind of town-run canteen into that warming station? Thanks.
The pencil sketches that we provided, and as the mayor stated earlier, you know, the end product may not look like that, but gives you an idea of what the, you know, at a high level what we're talking about. And you know, the outdoor pavilion, the washrooms, of course, they would support activities that happen around there, but also could be there to support a container village or a container market that that comes up in that location. We're hoping to put this just down from where the current trailhead is, and so if a container market was to pop up, or a larger market be designed and developed in that area, this facility would definitely support that market. It would give the town a presence beside the market as the market draws people to that area from far and wide. We would have a good concrete position there in that area and be able to provide services and information, et cetera, to people that visit the market. it's alongside the trail, and so it would see regular daily use by trail users. The trail, if you go by it enough, you'll see that it seems to be getting used more and more and more. And especially in terms of ATV and snowmobile use development, and you know, encouraging people to see Petawawa as a trail destination. It really kind of takes us to the next level in terms of having that type of a facility along the trail. And really nobody else in Renfrew County would have something like that. And so yeah, we're really seeing it, again, checking all the boxes and providing all the supports and opportunities that would really help us to, you know, move our trail development to the next level. Did I answer all the questions?
Yeah, I think so. Yep.
Okay.
Further. James.
Thank you, Mayor Sweet. Yeah, just kudos to the committee. It looks like a really nice celebration that is planned, and certainly the comfort station would benefit a lot more than just the users of the Algonquin Trail. And it sounds like it would dovetail quite nicely with the proposed container market. So yeah, job well done. Thank you.
Yeah, the thing with the container market, of course, is that's an outdoor, that's a retail business, and you're kind of required to have some washroom facilities. We ask everybody else to have it, and shame on us for not doing it ourselves. So that would have to be something that Christine would have to have included in there, and this is an opportunity to do it and kill two birds with one stone type of deal. So I think that's one of the boxes Kelly was referring to, and Christine, who sits on the committee, was kind of excited about this one as well. So I have to reinforce the fact that this is not etched in stone in terms of the actual program. So thank you, Gary, for that. Saturday, you know, as I say, this is a work in progress at this point in time. I'm hoping to bring people in for those sort of things, as everyone else is. I say me, but the committee is. It's something that is the Algonquin Trail Run, or whatever you want to call it, or maybe not. I don't know where it will take place, but we're hoping to centralize as much and as many places as possible within the facilities that we have, and showcase them as best we can. So, Father. No, okay. So, if we're going to move this forward, there's you see the recommendation. I need two motions for this. The first recommendation is that council endorse the creation and hosting of the town of Petawawa's 25th silver anniversary celebration in 2022, and direct the ad hoc committee and staff to continue with event planning as outlined in this report. I need a mover and a seconder for that, please. Teresa, seconded by Gary. Any questions? Call for the vote. All in favor? Opposed of any? It's carried. The second one is that council approve in principle the design and construction of a comfort station along the Algonquin Trail as a legacy project in conjunction with the celebration of the town of Petawawa's 25th silver anniversary. If you're comfortable with this, I need a mover. James, seconded by Murray. Discussion. Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Opposed of any? It's carried. Okay. Thank you for that. We'll go on to your budget, Kelly. Good job.
Nothing to report, Mr. Mayor. You know, our budget's sitting at 27%, and you know, we should be at around 41-42% this time of year.
Mm-hmm.
We've paid two fairly large invoices to Freecon Construction over the last couple months, so that'll affect our budget a little bit, just given the size of the project. But nothing's really out of line, and you know, we're kind of sitting where we expect that we should be this time of year. I'll answer any questions if any council has any.
Questions of the budget? And we'll receive that as information. Thank you, Kelly.
Thank you.
Where are we now? Finance. Accounts payable. Any questions on the payables? We got Get this all out of here. Oh, need a motion to pay the bills. James, seconded by Gary. All in favor? It is carried. Thank you. Animal control and bylaw report for May. Done.
Thank you, Mayor Sweet. Regarding animal control, I just wanted to highlight that one provincial offense notice was issued to a resident on Herman Street for the cat running at large. This is a long-standing issue with this owner and this cat. I also just wanted to remind residents that, like dogs, cats need to be leashed and contained to your own property. Again, they aren't allowed to run at large, so animal control will be following up on many of those issues over the summer. Regarding parking, continue with steady enforcement on that. Watering is starting to become an issue as well. So again, if you have an odd address, you can water on odd days from 6 to 9 a.m. and 6 to 9 p.m. If you're even numbered day, you may water from 6 to 9 a.m. and 6 to 9 p.m. If you are planning on installing sod or such, you can contact the town office to get on our watering exemptions list, where you can water on both odd and even days to keep the sod growing. I also wanted to note a follow up with the deputy chief's report that the commissioners did issue 3 provincial offense notices for burning without a permit, and those were to addresses on Airport Road, Rance Road, and Sylvan Drive. And I can answer any questions that council may have on this.
Well, I have to reiterate about this watering thing. As we drive around, I'm sure we all see illegal watering, and that's a serious situation. We're in a bit of a drought. I get that, and people are using a lot of water, and we have to understand we're not in any emergency situation at this point in time, but water is there for not only drinking, but suppression as well. We have to keep that in mind. So to the residents out there, as Don has said, odd and even days, that's when you're allowed to water. 6 hours a day or every other day is more than enough, not 24 hours a day. That's just total waste. And this could get into a serious situation. So they'll be out monitoring this, and they'll be issuing warnings. And if you've been doing it and you've had a warning, you'll get fined. That's just the way it's going to have to be. But you know, let's behave ourselves as far as this watering is concerned. The grass is going to come up next year. It's going to come up in September. So just control the watering. Questions on the report? No questions, then I need a motion to accept admin 11/2021. Teresa, seconded by Murray. All in favor? It is carried. Thank you. So we go on to what have we got here? Taxi license applications.
Thank you, Mayor Sweet. For this month, for the month of May, we had one renewal. So I'm asking council to approve this renewal for this taxi driver.
Everything's in order, is it done?
Yes, it is.
Thank you. Any questions on that? And I need a motion to accept the report, please. Matthew, seconded by Gary. Any discussion? No? Call for the vote. All in favor? Opposed of any? It's carried. Budget, administration. Where's Annette? Then you want to talk to us about Annette?
Thank you. No, I'll just take any questions. It's
Questions?
well within the range right now.
So you want all at the same time, animal control, all of them, or just nothing in any of the reports, eh?
No.
Questions about the reports, administration, animal control, bylaw, and of course, council. Any questions? Seeing none, then we'll receive that as information. Nothing for general matters.
Nothing, Mr. Mayor.
And we do have a requirement to go into closed. And it's pursuant to section 239(2)B of the Municipal Act to discuss personal matters about identified individuals, including municipal and local board employees. Need a motion to go into close, please. Murray, seconded by Teresa. All in favor? We are in closed. Thank you very much. Now we're back in open session. And Don, you have some motions there, do you not?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Sweet. I just wish to report that a closed meeting was held. The first matter discussed was consideration of the qualifications of an applicant for appointment to the Petawawa Business Advisory Network. The second matter discussed was consideration of the qualifications of an applicant for appointment to fill a vacancy on the Petawawa Public Library Board. Direction was given to the CAO clerk. The first motion that council will consider in open session is that council accepts the resignation of Robert Hall from the Petawawa Business Advisory Network with regret, and that council appoints Claude Tessier to the Petawawa Business Advisory Network for a term concurrent with council.
Thank you. So it is, as you say, with regret, we want to wish Mr. Hall all the very best. Thank him for his service to the PBAN. Going forward, you heard the resolution, the motion, I should say. I need a mover and a second to accept that. Teresa, seconded by James. Discussion? Seeing none. Oh, pardon me. Do you have discussion? No? No discussion. Okay. Then I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Opposed of any? It's carried. Thank you. The second motion.
Second item for consideration is that Mary McCaw be appointed to fill the vacancy on the Petawawa Public Library Board effective July 1st, 2021 for a term concurrent with council, and that a bylaw be brought forward to the June 21st council meeting to make the appointment in accordance with bylaw 36-98 and the Public Libraries Act.
Thank you. I need a mover and a seconder, please. Gary, seconded by Matthew. Any discussion on that? Then I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Opposed of any? It's carried. Thank you. With that, we'll go back to the agenda. Nothing further. I need a motion to adjourn. Murray, seconded by Teresa. All in favor? It is carried. Thank you. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you.